We now have a fireside chat by two very erudite personalities, who it's my privilege and pleasure to introduce before I invite both of them together on stage. He is the founder and managing director of CaratLane, which he founded in 2008. Over the past 15 years, he built CaratLane into India's #1 omnichannel jewelry business. CaratLane has had a remarkable growth story, culminating in a net revenue of over 200 plus crores and a 5-year CAGR of 50% in FY 2023. Very recently sold his 27% stake to Titan for rupees 4,621 crores, valuing the brand at INR 17,000 crores. Post-exit, he plays the role of enabler for other entrepreneurs and is currently mentoring the Oro team. Oro has a vision of making gold in every Indian household more valuable and fungible. Also, very recently, he joined Singularity AMC as co-founder and general partner. Singularity AMC undertakes the private equity investments across growth to late-stage Indian companies. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mithun Sacheti for you. I will invite him on stage after our next introduction. In conversation at the fireside chat with Mithun Sacheti is Kumar Rajagopalan, Chief Executive Officer, Retailers Association of India. In his role at RAI, Kumar focuses on creating a positive trade environment for modern retail in India. He's a member of Advisory Committee of Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC. He brings with him over 30 years of experience in business and knowledge. Having worked as a country head, retail solutions at IBM, he has also worked as the executive director and chief operating officer of Crossword Bookstores. He started his career in retail with Shoppers Stop Limited, where he worked for 13 years. During his tenure at Shoppers Stop, he shouldered varied responsibilities, including head of finance and systems, head of operations, head of buying and merchandising for non-apparels, head of concessions, and head of venture called Bargains. Kumar is associated with various organizations and industry bodies that help and promote retail. He is also a visiting faculty at various business institutes and a much sought after contributor to leading magazines and newspapers as an authority on all things retail. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Mithun Sacheti and Kumar Rajagopalan. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can do a bit better than that. I know it's a post-lunch session, and that's why we've kept these two distinguished speakers to keep you wide-eyed and enthralled. Over to you, sir.
Can we get the lights to be
I
on
just
our
want to
faces?
correct one thing. I am not the managing director of CaratLane anymore.
Yes, he said.
Somebody might get it wrong in the share market.
So, good afternoon, everybody. Oh, come on. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, just wanted to make sure that all of us are up and awake. I'm sure that none of you heard about a brand called CaratLane. Has anybody heard of the brand? Okay. Those who heard the brand, please raise your hands just to give you some exercise. Okay, so thank you so much. There it goes. Okay, so thank you. It's taken me some effort to get Mithun on this stage because I don't think we've really had a one-on-one at all. And somebody, when I was sitting there, told me you have to get Mithun into this event. So I did get him, and thank you, Mithun, for accepting to come in. Everybody's seen CaratLane. Some of them have been definitely using CaratLane. I think it's this story of a brand that's really got built in front of our eyes and grown so well, and people seem to love the brand. Yeah. But even before CaratLane, can you give us some shot on what's been your life path been? Because everybody sees CaratLane success, and that's the way they look at it and look at you as one of the most successful individuals in this room. So take us through the path.
Can we fix this light?
The light's back onto our faces. I don't think. You may need to recalibrate the light slightly, otherwise it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I live in Chennai, and CaratLane's a brand which is out of Chennai. But since you asked me life before that, I'm a hardcore, born and brought up Bombay boy. Absolutely, born in a jewelry family, a Marwadi jewelry family. was a single store business, and I had this deep desire to scale. Very early, I felt that my parents were very hardworking. Even now, they work more than me. They're very hardworking, and so there were two of them in the store. My brother joined the business, and there was really not much space for a fourth decision maker. So I decided to move to Chennai and build a business, expand that business over there. So I moved to Chennai when I was about 21 to build a retail store over there. And so I built a branch of Jaipur Gems in Chennai. And that's how my advent into jewelry came by professionally. Before that, I studied jewelry manufacturing and design in California, which is more a diploma course, a little overrated, but it's what I did. Before that, my mother is the driving force for everything that really happens in our lives. She would, while bringing us up and working in the store, on Saturday, Sundays, a lot of work would happen at home. And so we sort of unknowingly, the business was getting seeped into our thought process, and we would see it happen at home as well. So understanding craft in detail is something that we learned from her over there. That's really the backstory to how CaratLane really happened for me.
So, how did you think of creating CaratLane, and what has been the various instances wherein things have been good, things have not been good? So, just take us through the CaratLane journey from the start, because obviously you thought of a brand, you thought of something to be done.
Yeah, actually, I don't know whether I thought of a brand. I thought of a business. I was a shopkeeper, and I didn't know the difference between a business and a brand, and that I frankly learned over a period of time. For me, if you sold and customers bought, and enough customers bought and referred to somebody else, that's a brand. But I didn't think of it any other way at that point. I have this deep love for jewelry. I love making jewelry. It's something that I thoroughly enjoy. If you ask me of the parts of the business that I love the most, whether it's retailing, whether it's spending time with consumers, or whether it's manufacturing, I think manufacturing would be number one. For me, that is the space that I really, really love. But when I would sell in my family business, Jaipur Gems, I'd sell jewelry, and the raw material use is significantly expensive over there. So everything, the average ASP is about 2.5 lakhs or 3 lakhs in 2010. So you can add inflation to that now. What would happen is that people would always love it, but say it's really expensive. What was really expensive was the raw material I used. It's not like I was making that much more money than the neighborhood jeweler or anything, but it's just I use expensive raw material. And that frustration would make me feel like, okay, I can do the same thing in everyday jewelry as well. And that was the one part of the genesis, where I would say that I want to do everyday jewelry and I want to make this happen over here. The second thing was I always wanted to build a scale business. Now, for a scale business, you need capital, and the structure of the family is such that we would not borrow money to build a business. So that was another problem that I needed to solve as well also. And the third thing was that I'm not a big fan of large inventory businesses. Even Jaipur Gems is a very inventory efficient business, the way we run it even today on that. And so how do you build this? And jewelry stores were getting larger and larger. Malabar, Kalyan, Tanishq, all were building 10,000 square feet plus stores at that point. There was a fad in between to build these ultra large stores, which was going on over there. With gold prices rising and that happening over there, I felt that if I wanted to solve this method would not have, and I saw things happening in America as well. So the triangulation of the problems led to a solution called that flip the problem. Instead of being a merchandise brand, which is lots of inventory, become a marketing brand, reach lots of people. And the internet seems to be the space where a lot of people were doing this in America. Mind you, we were in same time that possibly Flipkart was thinking of starting their business. So it's about that time, you don't have visibility into it. And back in the day, you would not, you specifically went out to solve a problem. If you look at the world today, it's like I want to be an entrepreneur and I can find something that I'm going to do to solve as well also. And this kind of capital availability and all was not there. So you really needed to be sharp about what you want to do and go and solve that. And so that became the real genesis of how CaratLane came by. And a very big important part in that was this customer of mine at Jaipur Gems. His name was Srinivasa Gopalan. And he You spend every Tuesday with me at CaratLane to help me. But that journey only happened of CaratLane because he was willing to take the risk along with me and came along on that ride with me in the beginning. Had he not come, I think I would have been that kid from a jewelry shop who'd go every Sunday to a lifestyle or shopper stop, see that everyday jewelry segment and that Jilly and all the brands over there and say, I can do better than this, but I'd never take that step. So I think he was a big catalyst in making all of that happen as well.
It's a great story, Mithun, because I think quite a few of the retailers here have inherited retail businesses or they've set up single brand retails. They've been in this business long enough. Most of them go with the same ethos. I don't want to borrow. I want to do business with whatever is the internal accrual. Most of them would definitely have a family-run business in some form or the other. Many of them would like to create a brand but may not know what to do with their brands. So I think the things that you put forth are interestingly the same kinds of issues that people would face even today, and that's what they really do. So if you have to now shift the gear and say, okay, you found a problem, you wanted to do everyday jewelry, and thankfully some of us have been in the phase where many of these new age brands were there, the everyday jewelry brands were launched, and there was this market that was seen to be available to everybody. The question then comes also of opportunity. So you said that you started seeing that e-commerce is a big opportunity, which by itself is a very big step, because at the time when you possibly started, most of the jewelry companies said, "Main to bechunga nahi mera item online, especially if it's jewelry," because I remember talking to a few of the jewelers in those days, and they'll say, "I'll never put my jewelry online because as soon as I put it, everybody will copy my jewelry." Yeah. This was the biggest bane for everybody in jewelry business. And you seem to have done exactly the other way around. You're saying, okay, I'll go online. You're saying, okay, I don't have internal accruals, but I'm willing to take up a little bit of capital and go with somebody else. Because people find it very difficult in jewelry business to work with a new person or a new set of people to really take their business to the next level. They can't trust that they can work with somebody else. So how does one really get through these phobias?
Well, I think you gave the answer. So you go with somebody else.
No, but it's a phobia, right? It's there with everybody in their brain. कैसे करूँगा किसी और के साथ धंधा?
I think the problem with, and I used to feel that when I was in retail, the problem when you're sitting in a store is that you become very myopic. You're boxed, you're in a small environment, and you sort of feel that that environment is the world itself also, whereas the world itself is a very, very large space out there. And in that very large space, if you start thinking about it, you realize that your role is minuscule. I think when you realize your role is minuscule, it becomes that much easier to partner with other people and do that. But when you think your role is very large, you don't end up partnering. You think it's my design, I'm the creator, I'm the maker, I can do everything. I don't need partners to sort of scale and do all of that. I think if you really break that mindset of realizing that you are really just nothing in this entire universe of business, forget even retail, the sector itself also, it becomes that much easier to go out there and seek help and partners and do everything else. Just a little less self-confidence helps.
That's a nice way to look at business. Investments. You obviously got investors in the business. Many people go through this thought, yaar, mujhe investor lana hai, and they sometimes stumble onto the wrong kind of investor, or sometimes they believe it's a wrong kind of investor. And many a times they kind of freeze at a level when they have to get an investor. So what is your thoughts on getting an investor?
Well, I think investors come at two different stages. One is they come at the stage of hope. I mean, at the stage of hope at all times, but the stage that it's not really a business, it's stage of hope. When you're trying to go after a sunrise category, or a category that doesn't really exist, but everybody says that I can build something different. That's one type of investor who we all call venture capitalist or angel investor. Both of those fall in that bucket. And then there are those who have a proven concept, a store or a couple of stores, and say, I can take this model and scale that up. And those are your growth investors. So depending on which side or what you're looking for, I think there are enough qualified institutions available who are possibly willing to back on either side. But one needs to know who you're going for and whether you've understood that part. Because I see enough people who start at seed stage talking to private equity, and every private equity firm, and there might be a few people here, and I mean no offense to you, I'm a part of one. We have a lot of flunkies around us whose job is just to go figure out what is the information in the market. And so they'll tire you out. So it's really important to sort of break that and know who are you going to talk to, and not waste your time talking to people who are not material to you at all on that. But I don't necessarily believe that there are bad investors. There are bad situations. And in bad situations, things go wrong. And good people, or very good people in bad situations can still manage. Or very large funds in bad situations can still manage. But an average person in a bad situation has the same reaction he'll have at home or in the office as well also. So I think that is a misunderstood concept.
No, but it gives a little bit of a peek into what one should look for as far as investor is concerned, right? Which brings me to the next question. You've also become an investor now. I don't know whether you started off thinking that you'd want to be an investor. So what made you do that, and what are the thoughts that you have currently?
You know, I'm an aspiring human like most other people are. I was a shopkeeper. I looked at startup people and I said, I want to be one of those. So I became a startup entrepreneur. When I was a startup entrepreneur, I wanted the respect that the corporate guys were getting. So I ended up with a corporate guy. When I reached there, I realized that the investors get all the things. So I have now become an investor as well. And so, in life, you always look, grass is greener on the other side, and then there is a higher grass. And so the investor feels like the higher grass, and someday now there is capital, we'll become LPs. And that will mean that, that's where we want to be as well also. Then till we reach Vanaprastha, we'll find some stage or the other of life.
Oh, I thought by the way you were going, you'll never think of Vanaprastha. But you didn't bring this up. You did bring this up. Okay.
I mean, you always want your boss's job. So think about it like that, right? So that's shopkeeper to to the startup entrepreneur because he's cooler. And in that guy's life, the Nestle, Unilever, Titan of the world are cooler. And from their life, that guy who gives frivolous money to everybody to build a business is cooler. And so it's just a progression. Someday we'll get the CEO job.
I don't even want to ask you which stage are you in. Is the frivolous investor level? Not necessarily yet. So the thing is, when you do brand, and we'll have to go back to the brand question, because you can't really build a large business without having an ethos of the brand, without knowing what's to be done with the brand, what are do's and don'ts. So what are your experiences been as far as creating a brand is concerned, and what is it that you, when you sit in hindsight, think should be the do's and don'ts of brands or creating a brand?
To be honest, I believe that of all the things that we did really well at CaratLane, the one we didn't do well was building a brand. It's the one that I feel most dissatisfied about. That I think the business is better than what the brand is at this point. Some people end up with a brand which is bigger than a business as well. In our case, we ended up this way. I think the brand can be far more aspirational. We're a great, we are ease of business, all of that kind of stuff, the kind of product we make, love that people have for all of that is great. But I think that we have not possibly solved for that, and I might not be the right audience, the right person to sort of say that. I've always been disappointed with the brand or the stage that the brand is at any point.
Interesting. So tell me, you come across as a person who is very, very successful, who's gone through some pains in life for sure. So do you want to tell us about some of the pains that one should look out for? Because it definitely creates inspirations in the minds of people. And in the morning when we started the whole sessions, we said, this is going to be inspirational. Various things that we do across the day is going to be inspirational.
No, I think you can't build any business without pains. I can't imagine. Any business, let alone India and anywhere else in the world also, you can't do that. You don't get linear graphs in a country like India. It just does not happen. Because a linear graph might happen in a country which has very high GDP and very low growth rate, and you can see that because it's a very flat line linear over there. But in a country which is still growing as fast as India is, and with regulations figuring themselves out, and customer aspiration changing as we are building the brand, I think that is a very big, the ups and downs are a very big part of it. 2009, who would have thought that jewelry will come to your house through courier? That was the first thing, and we started the business and then figured out there's no courier available for it as well. When we went to Blue Dart, we really had to convince them to sort of, I had a personal relationship with a friend who used to run a business called Skypack. And I think they were the first ones who sort of delivered and did courier for us. Looking at them do it, Blue Dart got some courage to sort of do that. HDFC Bank, which was the only payment gateway that was willing to work with us at that point, still said only up to 10,000. We had to give a 50,000 rupee deposit for them to receive payments above between 10,000 to 50,000 as well also. So you're solving for everything. You know, we have no infrastructure in this country, which is digital infrastructure or anything like that back in the day. We had no 3G, we had no 4G. These are all different things. We came from a desktop era and I moved completely into a mobile era now. 94% of our traffic is mobile for everybody. I mean, how many of us really spend 5 hours a day on an average Indian spends on a phone, and you can just now imagine how much time they spend on laptop and desktop together. The fact that every entrepreneur and every one of us has to go through that journey of moving from 0 mobile time data to 5 hours of mobile and then cutting away the entire thing on desktop, etc. I think that just summarizes how much change you have to go through at all times. And as long as you stay ahead of that change, and I have fundamentally now articulated that for myself, saying that an Indian consumer goes through 10% wage inflation every year, and every 3 years goes through one promotion, which is a 30% wage inflation. If your brand experience or your product experience or your consumer experience, whichever the nice word you want to use, does not inflate by the same in his life, you're going to get left behind and he'll move on to something else. So you're constantly fighting in your mind, and you must have that paranoia to say that I'm going to get left behind, I'm going to keep building that. And that paranoia is what has kept us keep the rigor on to solve for everything that came our way. Problems come plenty, regulation, ED, everything else comes. Nobody leaves you behind in this country. They'll all come to you for it. But there is a solution to everything. It's just long, it takes time, you have to go through it and solve for it in every aspect. But I don't think, there are bad days, but there are no bad years as such. Yeah.
I think we've got just about enough time to take a few questions. Are there people in the audience who want to raise questions? There it is. Bala. Bala did promise.
In Chennai, you can ask me there.
I think Bala has had a few questions in his mind for some time now. So
can't get Mithun in Chennai, so we have to ask it here. So Mithun, we retailers love you because as a retailer, you've crossed a huge bridge and jumped over and done omnichannel right and created value. So what's that DNA each of us in the room as retailers can probably take home to truly, do what you've done?
I think that I think there's only one, you have to simplify your business. And the simple answer to any business is to basically just spend as much time as you can with the customers on one end and your product creation at the other end. As long as you keep matching both of these two things at all times, you'll solve for all problems. Omni is, I think it's such an overrated word. If I spent time on Rafiq Bhai's board at Metro Shoes. I think he's true Omni. You go to a Metro shoe shop 15 years back also, that guy, if he doesn't have a shoe available in his shop, he'll call on the phone another guy, make sure the shoe is available, the right incentives, make all these things play out and do that part. So this Omni is a fancy word that's come by now, but people have run this thing for an extremely long period of time as well, with technology or without technology. The true answer to a consumer business, whether retail or brand, whichever way, is just customer obsession. I think if you have that, and equally to solve customer obsession through product obsession. You marry these two things, I think you sort of get the business going right.
that's a good one. That's a very good one. Any other questions from the audience? Raise your hands, don't feel shy. Tell me, I'll ask one question that again keeps coming up, and you may be getting tired of this. Many of our retailers, and this is an association question, right? Many of our retailers have been in the business for long. They know that they've got a good product. They know that they've got the customer obsession. They know that they can really take the business to various levels. But whenever it comes to accepting investment from anywhere else, they kind of fall back. And they say, okay, if it's internal accrual, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'll not be able to expand. And for some reason, they are not able to expand because internal accrual can take you thus far and then they get stuck. So what is your advice for such businesses?
I mean, if your heart doesn't desire it and you're really happy building what you're doing, why would you want to do it? It's like, running a retail business is running at 5 kilometers an hour on the treadmill. Minute you take on investment, you're saying, I'm going to up the pace to 7 kilometers an hour. Because the investor in your journey from Kanyakumari to Kashmir will get on in Bombay and get off in Delhi. Or get on in Chennai and get off in Bombay, whichever way you look at it. So do you really want to up the pace of your life and your business and everything for that duration? If it doesn't suit your pace, don't do it. I think it makes absolute sense to not do that part. There is no... I think the joy of building a business, if you enjoy that by doing it by yourself, it's a great thing. But if you enjoy being on the treadmill and doing it, then you should do it that way. But I don't think that it's a single answer as well for everybody. And everybody should not do it also.
Fair enough. I think many of them come up and say that I want to do it, but I get scared to take investments from outside. That's where it comes to. Many times.
For that Mountain Dew made a line, Dar ke aage jeet
Dar ke
hai.
aage jeet hai. The other side of the story is bigger worry. Investor को लाया, सब कुछ किया, but at some point of time you have to sell your business. You seem to have done that. How do you ever manage to do that? And what does one need to think of?
In my entire journey, if there's one thing I never wanted to do was sell my business.
Okay.
And
So some of you did ask me this outside of this room.
Yeah.
So this gives you an answer. Okay.
Yeah, and it was not it is what it is, but it's a personal choice. Many people at different stage of life want to do different things. A business of value will have hundreds of buyers. There's never a shortage of buyers for that part. But you should also want to keep it, right? I mean, at 45, selling a business and doing what? That's the question I have to ask myself. Do I really want to restart again? And this is a thing I say again and again at the risk of repeating myself. What did I end up doing? I sold a business. I ended up paying tax to government. I came back in a snakes and ladder game from 98 all the way down to 0. And I'm going to now plan to restart with that capital all the way to go back up. It almost sounds silly if you put it
Only
together.
the size of your snake and ladder board has become much bigger.
The board can be as large. Starting problems are same.
Yeah, fair enough. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, if you found this to be useful, do give a big round of applause. Mithun, thanks for coming in and sharing what you did.